if you started by telling me a little bit about how you came to be involved in the forest industry, that would...
Well, I'll try to tell you. My father and mother came to Nelson as young, as bride and groom in 1896. And they had to travel by Spokane because Crow's Nest Pass part of the CPR was not through then. I traveled in here from Spokane, and he was interested in the mining. He wanted to get into the mining business, but he did take a job as a clerk in a hardware store, and which he worked at for several years after arriving. Then finally he got a chance to buy some claims on Sheep Creek. We're into the mining business now, but it's still getting there. Some claims on Sheep Creek with partners, and they bought some claims on Sheep Creek, and at a reasonable price, an affordable price, and he operated the Queen Mine on Sheep Creek near Sawmill for 8 years ago. In 1908, anyway, he sold out the Queen Mine, and he had what you call a small fortune. He had about $170,000, or over. I think that was the selling price, more or less, his share of it anyway. And some gentleman at Edgewood, the local fellows at Edgewood, had a little mill there, which they called the Edgewood Lumber Company. And they talked to my father about, they needed money, you see, and he got sucked into this little business at Edgewood. And of course, he had big ideas, and he thought that place, Edgewood's no place for a sawmill. And he, first thing he did was move the sawmill to Castlegar. Demolished the little mill at Edgewood and build a new mill, and a good mill at Castlegar, which was known as the Edgewood Lumber Company. And gradually there were other shareholders in it, but gradually he bought out the other shareholders, and it became his own business. And then about 1928, he thought, well, there's no other shareholder, no other people involved, and we'll change the name to William Waldie and Sons. And the name was changed to William Waldie and Sons Limited. Now, this was a bandsaw, you know, a 9 foot, I think a 9 foot diameter, a big band, a big deal, and run 10-inch saws, and a big type of saw. They would cut about 50 or 60,000 in an 8-hour shift, or mill then ran 10-hour shifts. I talked about 60,000. That was a big day. 60 would be a big day, more like 50,000 a day. And mind you, he was in his fortune more or less disappeared, and he was in financial difficulties all the time, all those years, you know what I mean. 1910, he burned out in 1918. I'm not sure. It must have been 1918. Burned out, and but how they rebuilt the mill, and the mill was rebuilt and was going, and of course he thought that he liked his family. He wanted the boys to go in with him, and we were willing. And
how many sons were there?
There were 3 sons involved in the business. There were 4 sons altogether, but Fred never did get into the sawmill business. He spent his life as a mining engineer at Kimberley pretty well. And then my father suddenly died in 1932. And we 3 boys were left to run the business. And it was a tough time, I tell you. Real difficult times. Lumber was selling on the prairie at that time for about $16 a thousand. We would deliver it there, you know, get it there. Of course, the only one way to get it there then was by CP rail. That's all there is to it. turn off the machine for a minute till I think, right? Well, you want to ask him now, or
Sure. Well, I wondered what your job was at the mill.
well, after first my father ran the whole thing, you know what I mean? We just did as we were told, but later we divided up. I would be logging manager. Mind you, we did some logging ourselves, and we bought logs, and we contracted, and we got them any way we could, you know what I mean? The best deals we could make, and I was a logging manager. I don't no real qualifications for the job, but anyway, we did it.
When did you first work in the mill?
I remember working in the mill about the summer of we'll say about 1918 or so. Somewhere there, I did work in the mill that summer. That would be the first year. It might have been 19. It might have been more like 19. I came to the mill to stay in 1922. When I left high school in 1922 and came to the mill to stay then.
Would you work in the summers before that?
Oh, well, only 2 summers, I think. Only 2 summers. It'd probably be like 21 and 20 and 21 likely.
Where was the site of the mill?
Well, you know where the Castlegar lagoons are now? You passed them. They're sewerage lagoons. Did you see the railroad bridge?
Yes.
The railroad bridge is right there, at the railroad bridge. And the lagoons are there now too, but that's where it is. You wouldn't know there was a sawmill there. You wouldn't know. Young people coming in here now, I guess it'd be hard to explain to them. There was a sawmill there that sawed lumber for 50 years. But that's right. Yeah, sawmill there sawed lumber for 50 years. That's a pretty good, from about 1910 to 1961, I guess, when Celgar dismantled it. And
did Celgar buy the mill from you?
yes, Celgar bought the business. Bought the business.
You didn't have the tree farm license, though, did you?
No, we had an application in for a relatively small tree farm licensing in the Whatshan Valley, and we didn't want to bite off too much. We were kind of cautious. And
where did most of your logs come from?
well, our lakes area, as far up as Arrow Park, 90% of them came from south of Arrow Park. More than that, 99%, I guess. We did buy a few logs from an operator at Arrowhead once in a while.
Did you work in the bush logging very much yourself?
No.
No.
No, I never did any actual labor in the bush, you understand me? I worked in the office there at the mill. That's when I went out there, I worked in the office and answered letters and did all kinds of jobs, you know what I mean? And it wasn't too departmentalized. They overlapped, the departments overlapped, and if you understand me, that there was no rigid regimentation of this is your job, this is my job.
When the company was largest, how many people did you employ?
You know, my memory's not very good. I don't know whether. Certainly, we must have had 100. Must have had 100 in at the mill and in the woods and on the payroll one way or another. Must have been over 100.
How much of the wood that you brought into the mill came from your own logging, and how much of it did you buy from contractors? Or
I would say we always bought more than 50%, or 50-60% was purchased, and any way we could, you know what I mean, the best deal we could make. And
could you describe your own logging operations a bit to me?
well, at Whatshan Lake. We had little camps in there then, and of course there was no truck logging at that time. And the time I'm thinking of, we used to sleigh haul them to Whatshan Lake. You've got a picture in your mind. You can picture Whatshan Lake, or
Yes.
anyway, and sleigh haul them in the winter to Whatshan Lake, and then throw them down the lake in the summer. And I had a flume. We built a flume from Whatshan Lake to the Arrow Lake. It's about a 5-mile flume. Big 50-inch sides on it, a big flume, right.
The sleighs, with those, some people have talked about sloops, which...
Yeah, oh yeah. A sloop was not a sloop was a single bunk, and the logs dragged behind. That's a sloop. And mostly downhill in this country, you know, and it's all hill, and mostly downhill. It was best. It wouldn't be so much holding back. You understand it? It worked better.
Did you use sloops and sleighs?
Well, we used sleighs in some cases. We used sleighs in some cases where the distance was greater, you know what I mean, and you could get more on a sleigh, and mostly mostly just sloops. And of course, they loaded it so that it balanced pretty well, and not too much tail drag. I'm trying to tail drag. They get along pretty good.
And they would have been taking out 16-foot logs?
Yeah, short logs, 16 foot, and all lengths, you know what I mean, but 16 to 20. That's right. Now, the short log on here right up to about 1950s. We were kind of with all short log work.
How did you get them down the lake then?
I towed them down. We had a big steam tug on the lake.
What was the steam tug called?
Elco. Elco 2 or Elco 1. And Elco 2 was simply a second boat.
Can you describe the towing operation, the booms and all that a little bit?
Yeah. They're just round, flat booms, you understand. They weren't bundled at all. They weren't bundled at all. About, what do you call it, 16 or 20 stick boom, you understand me? I mean, 16 or 20 boom sticks. And in some cases went more than that too.
Where was your booming ground up at the end of at the flume?
Yeah, that's right. Mind you, we'd boom any place. They developed just go around it with the boat and pulling the sticks around the logs, and no trouble. We never had an elaborate booming ground. Never had any equipment at a booming ground. The boat and the boom sticks, and they'd make up the boom all right.
How long would it take the boat to tow booms down from there?
Well, if everything was right and the wind was good and so on, about 3 days maybe, 3 days, pulling day and night, about a mile an hour. And then of course you get lower down, you have to tie some up, you see, and the river gets narrow here at String. It used to get narrow, and I'd only bring 2 or 3 booms into the river.
How did they operate the logging all year round?
I think some logging was going on pretty well all year round. Summer logging, winter logging, on different places, and summer logging mostly shoots, log shoots. In other words, shoot, C-H-U-T-E.
I've heard flumes and shoots. One was with grease.
Well, that's a shoot. Where you use a bit of grease, oil, or black oil, or something to help the logs go. That's a shoot, and you got a pretty good grade on it. But you got lots of places in this country for a shoot side. We lose a lot of shoots.
Why would you choose one or the other? What would make you decide?
in lots of cases, didn't have water to float the logs. You know, I mean, here's timber and here's the lake, and there's no big stream anywhere around, so you couldn't. And in other cases, well, it's steep, and a flume didn't want to be too steep. The water would run away, and if you know the grade changed from place to place, and the steep places, the water would run away from so fast, and a lot of them logs would be left squeezing on the flume sides. You know what I mean? It didn't work good. It didn't work good unless you could have a pretty even grade. A pretty even grade for a flume.
How it must have taken a lot of lumber to build a flume.
Oh, you bet. Oh, you bet. It did. First, you set up a. Well, we did. We only built one flume. Only a Whatshan Lake flume. We set up a small sawmill to saw the lumber at the site.
What about for the chutes?
Oh, use round log, round poles, long poles.
You made them out of poles, rather?
Yeah, oh yes, definitely. The chute was never made out of lumber. It was always poles, and had a 3-pole chute or a 4-pole chute, depending on how many poles went into the building of the chute. You see. Yeah.
Did they have to hew them a bit? Did they hew them?
Oh yeah, just smooth it down a bit. Smooth it down, that's all. The chute building got to be quite a fine art, you know what I mean? They talked about 2-pole chutes, you know, there's 2 poles and a long ride and 2 poles, and they had to be hewed a bit. We mostly went for 3-pole chutes, one in the middle, but...
and then braces every...
Well, bed pieces, every, set them on, every 8 feet or so, not more than 8 feet, I guess, apart, and then spike them down. You'd buy these ship spikes, black ship spikes from by the keg, you know what I mean? About 12-inch ship spikes, a square spike, you know, right? And, chute building was quite an art.
What replaced the flumes in the chutes?
The truck, the logging truck. See, no log was hauled to our mill until 1930. Up to that time and earlier than that, there had never been a log hauled to the mill by truck. There never a log hauled by truck for our work. Can you believe that? And then in a few years, it turned right around, and it's all truck. It's pretty near all truck.
Did that make a difference to where you could get timber?
Well, it made timber accessible that wasn't previously accessible. Were long hauls. The truck, though, revolutionized the business in 10 years. For us, it revolutionized the business entirely.
What came in first, trucks or cats in the bush?
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, trucks came first. Trucks came first. We didn't own a tractor until after 1940.
What's a jammer?
Well, it's a donkey call it. It's a winch. It pulls logs out of the woods, and I think it was the term.
Did you use the winches, jammers?
We did in some places. But I don't know. We were never too successful with cable logging. We never were.
Why not?
I don't know. Not enough timber per acre, I guess I would say. But maybe that's wrong. But anyway, we never did very much of it. Gordon Burns up here on the Slocan, he used quite a lot of cable work. Horse logging up to, far as skidding goes, most of it is done by horses, right, in my experience, right up to the into the 50s when we let it go, you know.
Can you remember your first truck?
Yeah. I guess it was a Ford, or I think it was a Ford.
3-ton? How big?
Oh, I imagine 3-ton, not big. 3-ton truck and 32 by 6 tires on it. That's just, you know what I mean, just a light truck. It's a light truck. Put bunks on it and a trailer. I used to make our own trailers at that time, you know, out of junk, out of where, make it up something.
And
At first.
would the truck be up at Whatshan Lake?
Well, mind you, we never used the truck in Whatshan. Never we used, no. Along came the Depression. We never, and we were down for a year, say, or we didn't log in the Whatshan for various reasons, and then when we came to start up again, the flume had rotted away, and we never did get going again in there.
So you didn't rebuild a road or between the lake and
We never trucked from Whatshan Lake anyway. We never trucked it. What was left, that's all.
How did the Depression affect your operation?
Well, for about 1930 was a good year with us. The smelter we were building at Warfield at that time, and we sold them about 6 million feet of lumber. That's one customer right here, 6 million feet of lumber. So 30 was a good year with us. Mm-hmm. Mine got into 31. We couldn't sell. We couldn't find buyers, and we shut down. I mean to say, we never shut down permanently, but we'd shut down and run and start and stop and start and go maybe 3 days a week and then 2 days a week and just sawing up logs that were in the water. No logging was done for 2 years. No logging was done for 2 years. That's right. And 31 and 32, no logging was done at all. And 33. In 33, Henry Gopp, a local fellow, had some timber up here. It was government timber that he wanted to put in the water for. So we made a deal with Henry and got about a million feet of logs. This would be 33, and we got going, and everything kind of broke for us, and we were able to sell the lumber out, losing too much money, and then we gradually expanded out again a little more.
Were you actually selling it at a loss?
Oh, well, I think so. Prices were very low, but mind you, we were getting the stuff pretty low, and we got help pretty reasonable too. And I don't know there was any loss. I'm not saying there was any real loss in those years. We had losses in the early years, in the 31, 32 period, when we were pricing inventory and all this stuff. We had losses then, all right, but. These new logs, though, came in and we got them at a good price and manufactured them all right at a pretty low cost, got the cost down. And I can't remember now exactly, but I don't think the bank would have let us go on and if we were losing money.
Did you have to borrow money to buy logs?
Oh, well, we had a standing credit at the bank of so many $1,000, but we had to explain to them all the time what we were doing and how we were doing it and how we were making out. And but we had a credit that we could draw on up to a certain definite limit. Yeah.
You were one of the larger sawmills in the area, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I think we were. In the 30s and 40s, we were among the largest. Then I guess that's right.
Who were your competitors?
Well, in the 30s, there was none. I would say that, frankly, there was none. Burns wasn't in business then, and Lingle and Johnson. There's a Slocan City now. We come back to Slocan City. Lingle and Johnson ran a sawmill at Slocan City.
As big as yours?
Oh no, it'd be a smaller mill, it'd be a smaller operation all around, but we used to compete with them in the trail market and to sell to the smelter and so on. They also sold to the smelter, and there was never any unfriendliness, you know what I mean, but they were competitors.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't many though, and even in the 40s there wasn't many.
Mm-hmm.
In this district, Burns came in, I guess, in the early 40s and set up and passed more there.
What about when your dad first started in at Edgewood? There were quite a few mills then, weren't there?
Well, Yale Columbia Lumber Company, does that ring a bell to you at all? They were up here at Wesley before Waldie's were in business here, but they went out of business about the same time as Waldie's got into the business.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite a big operator, though.
How about at Nelson?
Well, I don't think any mill at Nelson. Peter Elco, Glacier Lumber Company. Is this name ring familiar to you? Glacier Lumber, and Luthold in Spokane. Luthold, yeah, an American. He kind of helped Fluco, you understand, financially and so on.
Luthold?
No, Luthold, Leuthhold, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You may be able to.
And he was from Spokane?
Yes, yeah, he's an American lumberman, Deer Park Lumber Company of Deer Park, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He helped Fluco organize the Glacier Lumber Company.
How do you spell that name, do you know?
Fluco?
Yes.
Oh, I know that one. H-O-O-K. Luke. There must be an L in there. Luco. H-L-O-O-K. H-L-O-O-K.
Mm-hmm.
O-F-F. That sound like Luco now?
And that was Glacier.
Glacier Lumber Company, he called it. And they had a mill in Nelson. Right on the site of the, what the hell they call it later, Kootenai Forest Products, same site,
Mm-hmm.
same site.
Where did you sell most of your lumber over the years?
Oh, undoubtedly, most of it went to the Canadian prairies in the early years, up to the 40s. I went to the Canadian prairies. That was the natural market. You understand? That's what the business was built for, to supply that prairie market.
Then what happened?
Well, gradually, of course, white pine particularly, and cedar to a lesser extent, became very valuable in eastern Canada and the States too. Mm-hmm. And more and more was being shipped out. And finally, the Ontario market would like this white pine. They really liked that white pine and paid a big price for it. Or the prairie wouldn't pay the price for white pine. They were no different to them than spruce. You understand? They wouldn't.
The white pine, were you shipping that as specialty lumber or as dimensional lumber?
Not dimension, no. It was all 1 inch thick. You know what I mean? Boards and so on. It wasn't 2 inch, no. It was just dressed for size, as far as we were concerned. 90% of it dressed for size. It was used for facing boards on houses, you know, the boards around the windows and so on, and in kitchen cupboards, etc.
Were there some species that you cut more than others? What did you have?
Well, we went into the woods. We generally took what was there, and we sold it to the best advantage, whoever we could. But we did not go into the woods looking for a specific species. In any case, we didn't. We were selective to a certain extent, all right. I have no doubt about that. But we never went in to just get one species out.
Mm-hmm. What log could you make the most money on?
Well, course, for many years, I think if our dollars per thousand go, undoubtedly we made more money on pine, on the white pine.
Did you cut yellow pine as well?
Oh yes, and it was a good market there too. You know what I mean? You get this big yellow pine. You get lots of clear lumber off them.
And
Yeah.
what about cedar?
Well, we had a lot of cedar. I'll tell you, millions of feet of that old growth cedar. There wasn't much money in that. You know, wherever there was a knot, it was big and loose, and I was. The product was mostly went to Ontario as number 2 cedar boards, we called it. Big loose knotted stuff, and this is where it could be sold. You know, lightweight, of course, again, was a factor in. Selling cedar in Ontario, weigh about 1,500 pounds to 1,000 or so, and the freight was not too great. But we just get them clear cedar out of it and sell it here and there.
Did you have a lot of competition from the coastal mills?
Well, we weren't aware of it, I guess, to put it that way. We weren't aware of it, but then we were all selling in the same market, and if their price went down, ours went down, that's all.
How much of your production was sold locally?
Well, it developed more and more, kept developing more and more. I don't know whether it would get to a half or a quarter, somewhere a third, or say. That's how I remember it now. I think probably a third or so locally.
Did you have a retail lumber?
We did have a retail lumber yard in Castlegar. That's right, we did have. This was a later adjunct. It wasn't set up until about 1950, I don't think. But it never sold a big percentage. You know, it wasn't a big factor in the quantity.
Did you have to change the equipment in your mill? Did you have to rebuild your mill sometimes with new equipment?
Oh, I don't. We never changed the equipment. The mill burned out in 1918, and they used the sawmill equipment here and there. And I know some pieces of equipment had on Kamloops Lumber Company. It had been at Kamloops and shipped to Kamloops sometime earlier, and I know a piece of Kamloops Lumber Company on it. And no, we never changed anything, I would say. Maybe I'm exaggerating at anything, but we just ran that equipment. That's all there was to it. And we were kind of sleepy, stupid, I guess. We didn't see that it needed to be changed.
Your main saw, was it a double cut?
A double cut band, yeah, double cut band, that's right. And all the log had to go over that double cut band saw, back and forth till it was worn out, till the log was worn out or sawn up. That's right.
How was the mill powered?
Well, one steam engine. We weren't hooked up to the West Kootenai until, well, I don't know, early 40s, I believe. We weren't hooked up to West Kootenai Power. We had a little steam generator, you understand, to generate power for the sawmill ourselves and there, which was a small deal, lights only. It wasn't, we had no electricity, that's what I'm saying, no electricity until sometime in the 40s, maybe middle 40s, I think.
So did the steam plant then run with flat belts?
Yeah, a line shaft, you know what I mean, a line shaft. They got a shaft running from one end of the mill to the other. It's a line shaft, and then you take off this line shaft, set up pulleys and so on, and take off for this machine and take off for that machine, and on the size of the pulley you'd work out on the speed you wanted. You'd work out the size of the pulley necessary, knowing the speed of the line shaft, and run from a big wheel, a big pulley to a small pulley, you'd get speed. Run from a small pulley to a big pulley, you'd slow it down. You understand? It's all calculated out in a line shaft. A one steam engine and a line shaft. That was the setup.
What was the fuel for the steam engine?
Waste wood, sawdust and shavings, and automatically dropped into the furnaces, and all waste wood though. Nothing else went into those furnaces.
So you could run the mill on its own, on this, just what you produced.
Oh yeah, and have stuff left over, and dry white pine. We found that the hottest fuel of all. It burned fast, and sometimes you could see the brick, melting down. You could see the stuff on the brick dripping on the heat.
What other kinds of machinery did you have there, other than the head saw?
Well, of course, you had an edger, you understand, an edger and a trimmer. And we made wood lath, which is a lost art, which is no more now.
Tell me about making lath.
Well, you pick slabs out of the conveyor, suitable slabs, and lots of them, out too many big knots in them and so on, and you run them through a boulder first. That's where you've got 3 or 4 saws set 1.5 inches apart. I think I last 1.5 inches wide, and set 1.5 inches apart, and then put them through the boulder. And
is that like a gang saw?
yeah, same thing, only it's miniature. The slabs are 4 feet long. They were cut off automatically 4 feet long, and the last 4 feet long anyway. So that's, and then so those sticks up in there, and a lot went into the conveyor, of course, because of the wing and the bark and so on. Just the good pieces were picked out, and then you got 1.5 inches one way, and might be anything the other way, and you'd feed them into a lathe machine. Again, a gang saw, about 3, maybe 3 saws running. Used to sell this damn lath for about $4 or $5 1,000 pieces, But anyway, fellas make it pretty fast though, and we made shingles out of the big cedar, we made shingles. Lots of suitable shingle material in this country was at that time, The big cedar with the hollow butt and so on, lots of clear wood on the outside, damn good shingle material.
Did you trade shingle wood with people who had limits?
No. I don't remember doing that. I don't think so. Some years we were short of shingle wood, just depending on where we were logging. Now the big cedar wasn't available there, and some years we were kind of short of shingle material, but generally we had lots of it.
Were there times when you were short of saw logs?
Oh yes, we were run out of logs. We didn't have enough ahead,
Why not?
Well, financial problems. Didn't have enough money to put into that big log pile.
When was that? During the Depression?
Oh, yeah, all right. In the Depression and in the 40s again, you know what I mean? The goddamn sawmill put them through faster than we could get them out of the woods. Just call it poor management, if you want. But I remember being short of logs lots of times. We could have put through a bigger quantity or we'd had more logs on hand.
Was it ever a shortage because of, on the woods end, that there wasn't available timber?
Well, call it what you want. The timber was there all right, but we didn't have the organization to get it out fast enough then. Yeah, that's right.
But as you were logging over the years, did you find that it became more expensive to get the wood out?
Oh yes, more difficult. That's right. I was getting farther back and had to build a bigger mileage of road and haul it greater distances, and that was a problem.
Did you run camps?
Yeah, we did in some cases, yeah. Yeah.
Were they float camps?
No,
or-
no, we never had any floating camps. Well, in Jew, I wouldn't say we never had. They did on the Whatshan Lake, had a floating camp there. But generally, no. We built log buildings. That's what we generally did. And later, we built some wood lumber buildings too. We built them with the idea that we could take them down and put them up again, and we would design them right. But I never were taken down somehow. There were time we were through with them. They didn't look like they were worth taking down.
Well, you must have hired an awful lot of people. Was it hard to keep your operation staffed?
Oh, we had no trouble. They were coming and going all the time, though. We just.
Could you get good cooks for the camp?
Oh, no trouble, no trouble. I don't remember. Well, mind you, there was, in the wartime years, there were trouble getting the cooks, and trouble getting everybody then. Trouble getting everybody, in the late 30s, well, in the early 40s, I'm thinking. It was a problem, just local fellows who lived around here. I'm not thinking of the mill. We never had any trouble at the mill, because enough people lived around here that were getting back and forth the mill. But in the woods, we did have trouble. Just get enough bodies there. Never mind how good they were, how get enough bodies there. I remember having trouble. I remember making trips around, seeing if I couldn't pick up some men. What the hell, pretty hard, you know what I mean?
Trips around?
Oh, around the area, see if I could find some men, or see if I could get a name of a fellow who wasn't working, and go and see him, see if he wanted to go to work. And, well, what the hell, if he wanted to work, he was already working, and it was tough. It was tough.
Why did you decide to sell the mill?
Well, I guess the philosophy was that the only time to sell something is when someone wants to buy. And it was the first time in our history that anyone had shown any interest in buying. They approached us. We didn't go out looking for them. They approached us and said that might be the best solution, rather than be competing with each other, and they being so much more powerful financially, that we might get the worst of it, and in picking up timber and so on. They didn't want to be competing with us and having any what do you call it, trouble with the government saying, well, you're squeezing out these small fellows and this kind of thing. They didn't want that. And, but the only time to sell is when someone wants to buy, isn't that right? You can't dispute that.
Was there discussion about a big mill coming in for a number of years before they came?
No. There was no discussion that I know of. We were never approached by anybody until Celgar approached us.
Did you have wind that they were cruising and looking at the
Not before they were here on the job and running around for months where we knew what it was all about. A big white boat appeared in the lake, and some fellows were running around, and they were looking the country over. And
Had other companies looked at it for that?
not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Just certainly they didn't discuss it with us. No one previously had discussed it with us at all.
Did they continue to run the sawmill?
Yes, they did. See, they bought us out in 1952. And we stayed right on. That's just what they wanted it. We stayed right on. But then the agreement was for 5 years, but subject to either party could change it if they wanted to. You understand me? They didn't unconditionally guarantee to keep it on for 5 years, and we didn't unconditionally agree to stay. But 5 years was mentioned, though, and I stayed there for the 5 years. And Brother Bob stayed there a while. He stayed another year, I guess, after I. And he might have stayed right on because he wasn't thinking of anything else. But he got a heart attack, and the doctor told him he'd have to, you know what I mean, not have a stressful job. And the job he had there, he was selling lumber. You know what I mean? A goddamn stressful job. He decided to quit. So, but we did stay the 5 years, but this 5 years only you know what I mean, a suggestion, that's all it was. Either party could terminate it.
That must have changed the area a great deal to have a large company operate.
Oh, it had tremendous changes, tremendous changes.
Were you in charge of the logging end of it still?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, they changed that right away. Right away, I was no longer in charge of I guess they figured they had a better fella. But Ron Jordan of the Cusp, he put him in charge of logging in the area. You'll hear the name Ron Jordan in the Cusp, you will, if you... Well, he's no longer there. He's out at Chase or somewhere. He's retired. No, that was changed right away. I was kept on as mill manager right here at Castlegar, mill manager.
And then they were building the...
Well, nothing happened from 52 to 58. I would say nothing happened whatever. Virtually nothing happened as far as the pulp mill goes. I guess we were a little slow down, and they didn't... They got the pulp mill going in 60, in the fall of 60.
Did you have a quota at that time when they bought you? Did you have a timber quota from the Forest Service?
No, I don't think it. Well, not at the time they bought us out. We were not on any quota service. We applied for timber sales as we wanted them, and the Forest Service, I would say at the time, did their best to accommodate us. Did their best to accommodate us. We had no trouble. And so the forest ranger, you know, the piece of timber here we'd like to get. And he said, yeah, I know that piece of timber, and we can get a sale through. Maybe it might take 3 or 4 months, you know. We got to advertise it, and we got to cruise it, and it might take 3 or 4 months. Now, what the hell? You wouldn't talk on a 3 or 4 months deal. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, the Forest Service did cooperate and help as much as they could, in my experience.
Whose business was it in the company to be scouting out new timber?
I guess mine.
How did you do that?
Well, I just hearsay, and but mind you, timber was not scarce at that time. Timber was not scarce here. And we just worked along on what we knew and what we heard, or a good chance, and a good chance we'd go and look at it, and didn't.
Did you have a launch to get you up and down, or did you use the tugs?
Oh no, we would travel on a CPR boat or a road and car. Well, anyway, we wanted to get into the woods where there was no road. We made suitable arrangements as best we could, but that wasn't so many times anyway.
But was most of the timber right along the lake?
Yeah. Within walking distance, say. If there was no road, you could walk, you know, a few miles, and that's right. We didn't make any big cruise of the area to find out where the timber was at all.
How did you know? How could you tell if it was worthwhile or not?
Well, it didn't change that much from place to place. The cost of getting in, the cost of access was the thing we were really thinking about. Always how many miles of road we had to build and how much it would cost to build this road. We had to build the roads at that time, you see.
The road, that would have been in the 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
the roads.
Oh, yeah.
And then before that, flumes and
Well, chutes and everything else, but that timber was relatively close to the lake, or else we weren't interested. You know, relatively close, within a couple of miles or so.
Mm-hmm. Did you actually cruise it and calculate the volumes, or did you just guess at it?
Just guessed at it. Just guessed at it.
Were
Just
you-
guessed at it. That's right.
Could you tell by guessing fairly?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I don't think we were fooled very often.
So,
And then not the hell, the Forest Service cruise it for you. You apply for a certain piece of timber, they cruise it for you by themselves. They cruise it for themselves, but they, you know what they think before you put up any money.
so you would tell the Forest Service, you would ask them to cruise an area?
Yeah,
and
we make an application for a timber sale. We made an application for a timber sale. That's all.
And would they decide the boundaries?
Yes, yes, oh yes. You couldn't bite out, you know what I mean, just a few acres of the choicest. You would have to take what they thought was a reasonable section, that's right.
How big was an average sale? How many board feet on average?
Well, they varied so damn much, you know. Mine were just little corners, and other times they were, in some cases, 10, 12 million. In some cases, that would be a big one. That would be a big one.
Mm-hmm. So if you were cutting 50,000 feet a day,
Yeah.
how many thousand feet of logs would you have to put into the mill to get that?
At that time, we were working on the BC log scale, the same thing, you know what I mean? BC log scale was based on what they thought they could get a cut out of a log, lumber out of a log. That's what the log scale was based on. There was an overrun, of course. In other words, the scale, you could cut out of a log more than the scale showed, because the scale took I think it figured out cutting a log into inch lumber, and you know, most of it was cut into 2-inch, so there's way more sawdust than allowed for in the scale, and it actually taken out at one thing, you know, and other things too. The scale allowed for an overrun. Well,
But a million, you said 10 million board feet would be a big
sale.
Sale.
Oh yeah, a big sale. I'm just thinking of my experience, and I don't think many of them went over 10 million feet applied for.
and that would last you a good part of a year then.
Oh yeah, it would, but we've never worked on one sale, you know what I mean? We were working on dozens of different places at the same time. And these timber sales were active for many years, you know.
So once they advertised the bid, then what would happen?
They advertise it, it's offered for sale, and the date of the sale is mentioned, and you turn up and see, we never had any competition in any sale. We never had any competition at any sale that I remember.
You never had to
No,
bid against
we
anyone?
never had any competition at any sale. I say this now, it could be wrong. I might do it in one or two cases, but I don't remember others turning up at that sale.
Why not? Was there a gentleman's agreement?
No, I had never made an agreement with anyone. It was inconvenient for them to get to that place. They didn't have equipment, say, to tow logs on the lake and so on, and there was no gentleman's agreement.
Were you the only people with a towboat on the lake?
Yeah. It was just the way it worked out, that's all. That's the way it worked out.
So you would get the timber for the
Upset price.
upset
What they
price.
call the upset price, yeah. That's the way worked out. Mind you, there was competition in cedar pole business. Bell Pole Company, they were working in the same area, and but they didn't want saw logs, you know what I mean? They wanted poles. And
If Bell took a sale that had saw logs on it, would they sell the logs to you?
I don't think so. I don't think we ever bought logs from Bell. I don't ever remember buying logs from Bell.
Did you?
He worked, well, Bell were up there, they were working here and there, they made their own arrangements, and
Did you make poles too?
we made poles, yeah, we made poles. We made quite a lot of poles, and we had a pole yard up here right where the pulp mill is now.
Uh-huh. Where did the pole? How did you sell the poles?
Up to Walter Levitt in Spokane, Levitt and Nagel or some damn name of the firm, or
In Spokane.
in Spokane, but the poles never went to Spokane. The poles, we shipped them to Galloway, BC, out here east of Cranbrook. They had a yard there, you see, and they went there. We dealt with them for many years.
Did you use lumber brokers
Yes,
to sell through?
yes.
Is that how most of your lumber was sold?
Yes, yeah.
Who were the brokers?
Oh, I can't only remember Harvey Perkins in Calgary, H.S. Perkins Lumber Company. He was one. He was strictly a broker. He never had any lumber yard or sawmill or anything else. He was just an office, and but he knew all the dealers in Alberta say well. And
he would take your lumber, or he would.
Well, now this is the way it worked. Of course, he would go around and get orders from the yards. They wanted this and that, and so many pieces and he'd take these orders, that's all, and send them to us. He would deal with other mills too, but he was around among these fellows every week. He was seeing them and so on. We weren't there.
Did he come here too?
Oh, he visited us maybe a couple times a year, not regularly. Just to get to know us and what our equipment was like and what we had and so on.
So would you ship to him, or would you ship to the
No,
yard?
no. He sent us an order to ship to so and so. Well, he would pay us though. That's the way he did business. So we billed him. And he in turn billed the other fella. But the lumber never went to him. It went to some damn lumber yard in some town in Alberta. That's right.
Did you ever not get paid for lumber from brokers?
No. Well, mind you, we had disappointments in some cases, but I don't remember a broker ever going broke. I don't remember it. No.
Did you have to be careful about the brokers?
Well, if they were in business and reliable, you know what I mean, it would be known that if they were unreliable. Sure. We had no exclusive arrangement with anyone, you know what I mean. We could had the right to sell to another broker if we wanted to. No exclusive arrangement.
But Perkins took most of your.
Well, I just remember him as a reliable fella.
Did that system change between
I wouldn't
1910 and 1950? Was it over that 40 years?
I don't think it. Not to any great extent. Not to any great extent. There's another fellow in Winnipeg, Dan McDonald, they called him, and the Dan McDonald Lumber Company. They were the same way, just a broker. No doubt funny things happening every week or so, but God, I can't think of them now. I can't think of them.
You must have had some characters working for you, I suppose. People who were.
Well, we must have had.
Did your logging crews ever get called out to fight fires in a
Oh,
bad year?
oh yes, oh yes, oh you bet, oh you bet.
What would happen?
Well, mind you, if there was a fire anywhere near, I guess we were anxious to keep it contained anyway. But no, the Forest Service would just say they wanted the men. That's all. They wanted the men to go to that fire, and that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And we shut down the mill here on more than one occasion. To supply crews for fires right around here, But,
So the ranger would call you
yeah,
up.
that's right. They wanted these men. They'd send the trucks around to pick them up, pickup trucks to pick them up.
How did you communicate with your logging camps?
Well, we did put in a two-way radio. What would you call it? A radio up here to. Well, it went to camps on the lower lake here, where they were isolated. You know what I mean? We did have that was done in the 40s. Cost us quite a few $100s to get an outfitter to work. You wanted a 50-mile range and 50 miles, and it was quite expensive. But we got an outfit. We could talk to them.
What did you do before then?
Just got along. Mail and telephone, and a standard mail and telephone service. Yeah.
But you wouldn't have telephones into the camps.
No. They'd have to go out and phone us. They'd have to go out and phone us. That's right. That's what we got along anyway. And how would they get along before we had telephones? Same way.
That must have been hard.
That was too.
So what happened if they needed something at the camp? If they were
Well,
down?
You'd have to get to a phone. That's all. And mind you, that never were out too many miles from a little town of some kind. You know what I mean? We were working close to the water, close to the towns. I mean to say, close to them. Oh, I'll let it go out. That's all. It took a half a day. It took a half a day to get the phone and make a phone call.
Mm-hmm. Were there families in any of the camps?
No, but communities like at Arrow Park and so on, a lot of fellows worked for us year after year, and their family lived at the community there, which was there anyway, you know. I mean, we didn't create it, but they no doubt they wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been work for them. They wouldn't have stayed there. They were right.
Did the camps run 7 days a week?
No, we never ran 7 days a week. I don't remember in my experience ever working more than 5 days a week. And these fellows pretty well all go home for the weekend, pretty well. Some were single men, though. Some didn't have a home. Yeah.
And a 10-hour day?
Well, I remember the mill working 10-hour day. I don't think the woods worked more than 9 or so. Not in my memory. Not in my memory, that's right. Up and at it early in the morning, I tell you what, out in the dark, in the winter months out in the dark, but I don't think, about 9-hour day. I remember we used to take lunch out, you know, I mean, a bull cook would bring lunch out and build a big fire and heat a kettle, make tea, and it was real pioneer stuff compared to today. It's in my memory, you know. A bull cook or the cook would bring out the lunch and on his back and make a fire out in the woods there and make tea and.
Did you ever lose logs on the river? Did you ever have booms break?
We did right down here in the early days. We had quite a little loss. You know, the river is fast there, and you got to swing these booms in, anyway, we did lose logs. We lost some logs.
What would you do if a boom broke?
Well, it's gone. It's gone down the river, and they're gone forever. That's $20,000 that you've lost. Period. No way to get them back.
They'd end up down in the States.
Oh sure. Sure. We did lose logs. That's right. We did lose logs. That's what percentage was. I'll never know, but I no way to figure it out now. But
What would cause a boom to break?
well, what the main thing was the swinging them in there at the bridge. In some cases, they'd hit the pier. The boom would hit the pier, you see, and they had too big a boom. And in some cases, it was too big, and the boat couldn't hold it. And it hit the damn pier, and the boomstick had probably split. Anyway, a lot of logs were down the damn river, and the period is gone. This did happen, you understand? Not dozens of times, but it did happen on some occasions.
You must not have appreciated
Oh, no, I'll tell you
captain's
what.
judgment
No,
that day.
that's right.
Who were the crew on the Elco?
Well, they had the same men year after year. Old Captain Sutherland is down here in Raspberry Lodge. He's 99 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
And the last Castlegar news, I was right up on him.
Did he come to work for you?
He came down from the cusp.
Mm-hmm.
And took the job here in 31, that's right. I'm gonna tell a cup of coffee.
Okay.
He must have been buying scrap iron, looking around for scrap iron now. And they really putting through the quantity of stuff, though. I never saw anything like it.
At the West Army.
Yeah, West Sawmill right now. We got what they call, I guess it's two, I'm not sure. I think the logs into the mill on 3 different conveyors, depending on the size. They go to this one or that one. They only got one carriage as carriage. The big logs go to the carriage. You see, the others go to chip and saw. And anyway, and the carriage, and then the carriage just cants them for. I tell you what, the highest quantity goes, it's really going. It's really going. Right. You should see it. I don't know whether. Anyway.
I guess it could have made how well things went depended on the Sawyer affair, but in your mill.
Oh yeah, that's right. But mind you, he would do the best he could, but some were a little better than others. All right, that's right. But everything had to be sawn on that carriage. Yeah, that's right. I used to figure the difference in the bandsaw on the circular saw was, quite a lot of saw curves. They've got nothing but circular saws up there. They don't worry about this saw curve at all, I guess. I don't. On the carriage, the saw that's cutting at the carriage is a circular saw too. But mind you, they only make 2 or 3 cuts in a log anyway. Maybe they cut off a slab and then they cut off a 2-inch piece, maybe. Then they roll it over, and they get down to the 12-inch or 10-inch. Away she goes. That's all it.
Did you have
facility for sharpening the bandsaws?
Oh yes, and a filer right there. Well, it only run about 4 hours, I guess. What they figured that. So we had to have facilities for sharpening it.
So every shift you have to.
Oh, I twice in the shift they'd change saw in the middle of the shift, and then if it doesn't seem to be running right, I'd change another time. Stop and change the saw. Oh sure, saw. I actually had to have 3 or 4 saws to keep the thing going. And maybe hit a little rock, and mind you, the bark was on the logs. And they've been skidded along skidding trails, you know what I mean? Some rocks would get embedded into the bark, and the bark was not removed. So now and then you'd hit a little rock. And we had to have lots of saws.
How long did it take to change the saw?
A few minutes. A few minutes. I wouldn't like to say. I don't think it'd be as much as 5 minutes. You got to top the machinery, of course, and everything got to stop. And, I take the tension off, you know what I mean, and the fellow on each side takes hold of the saw, and it would lift at the right time, and it just slip over, and it would go onto a hanger, you understand, a wooden hanger, and then they'd pull that up. Put the new saw on the hanger, you call it what you want, and lower it down till it was right with the wheels, you know what I mean, right? And then again, just slip it on.
Was there someone up above on the catwalk, or up above the saw with the new blade?
No. Here, you and I are here. We're standing opposite each other, and and the saw is between us, you understand, hanging, and you get a hold of it. But there's no one up above. But up above, it's a filing room, and the new saw is up there. And the same thing, they've got to get it over to the planks with wheels on them, casters, you know what I mean, and the saw would be on this caster, and you get it over there, and the details I can't just remember, but anyway, they got it on this hanger and lower it down, that's all. But,
How much did the saw blade weigh? Was it quite heavy?
I imagine it would be a couple of 100 pounds. Anyway, quite heavy. Maybe on a couple of hundred, because I know there was no real effort for these fellas to lift it, you know.
Did you have a filing machine?
Oh yeah, a grinder, automatic grinder, you know what I mean. Elaborate equipment, and it would, the wheel go down into the gullet of the tooth and up again, just make the shape of the tooth just right. And, but I know there's no bandsaw up there. Don't worry about that. But circular notes are cheaper and cheaper to buy, and anyway, it's what they're running.
Did you also have a planer?
Oh yeah. We had 2 planing machines and a resaw in the planing mill. A resaw, so we bring in 2-inch lumber and resaw it to 1, and if you wanted to.
Why would you have the resaw?
Well, suppose you got a bunch of 2x8, and you want a bunch of 8-inch shiplap. Shiplap was a big thing, back in my days. Inch lumber for sheeting up buildings, and all right, you put the 2x8 through the resaw, and you got 2 pieces of 1x8, and then they go through the planer and make shiplap, and you didn't have to have a bunch of 1x8 and 2x8 both on hand. You had 2x8 on hand, you could make shiplap. Anyway, it's better to resaw it, the 2x8, than to saw the 1 inch on the head rig. The head rig could do that much more work, turn out that much more lumber. And everything got 2 inch as compared to cutting 1 inch. Yeah. I suppose you've been told about the matchblock factory in Nelson. It was in Nelson for years.
Yes.
It had an effect on the lumber business in this area, in this whole interior area. And a lot of little mills were cutting out match plank for Powell.
Did you?
We did sell them some. We did sell them some. One time, I don't. I don't know what years it was. Would it be in the late 40s or early 40s? We sold them some. Then we got back to shipping it east. I thought we were getting more money out of it.
You could get more money shipping to the east than
Yeah,
from Powell?
well, that's what we thought. You see, one just match plank, one price. Or if you cut it all up yourself, you can get some high grade out of it and so on. But it's a mute point which way you got most money. I don't know. And it was just rough, you know what I mean. Just rough. That's all.
Did you have a kiln?
Yeah, we had a kiln. We had a dry kiln.
When did you build the kiln?
Mine must have been built around in the early years, about 1920 or so.
Did you put, what part of your production did you put through the kiln?
Well, we couldn't put through more than 10% of our production through it, you know what I mean? It was hip or pine and so on. High grade stuff, and but you know, it was a slow process. We'd be in the kiln about 4 days or so, and anyway, I'm sure we couldn't put through a kiln more than 10% of the production.
Huh.
So.
Did you air stack a lot of the?
Well, that's the way we did going back early. We piled it, stripped it, and piled it in the yard, and then these carriers, lumber carriers came in, and so on, and forklifts and so on. So the piling wasn't so important, you know. And maybe get them up two or so units high, but didn't. Going back, when I first went out, they used to put the piles up, you know, as high as they could do it. Straight pile, you know, and neatly put up and stripped just so, and very important. And it looked right when it was done. Very important.
When you were selling wood to the brokers before, well, it would be all sold green then, is that right?
Most of it went to the prairies and so on. It was green. It was green or partly dry. That's true enough. That's true enough. But the only real argument for dry lumber is that it costs less money for freight because it's lighter. It's lighter per 1,000 feet.
Were the freight costs very high from here?
Well, not high compared to what we hear today, but 48.5 cents to Winnipeg, 32 cents to Calgary. This is pounds, cents per 100 pounds. Well, if you multiply by 2, mind you, dimension is over 2, but multiply by 2, that's 48 cents, say, and 2,000 pounds per 1,000. You'd have $9 or $10. It'd be $10 freight, all right, per 1,000 going to Winnipeg. Yeah. But today, I hear prices are hellish, a lot higher than that. Not twice, but many times higher, I think, what I hear.
How much would 1,000 board feet weigh?
I said 2 pounds, take it at 2 pounds, shiplap and so on, not far, 2,000 pounds per thousand, but dimension go about 2,500, 2x4, 2x6, about 2,500.
And at that time, how much were you getting delivered in Winnipeg?
Oh, I can't remember that, but I remember the price at the mill, went back to, well, historically, in the early days, it was about $15 a thousand price at the mill. Then it got up to 20 into the 20s, and then in the Depression period, lower still, we're down to $12 or so a thousand and 32, I'm sure.
So it cost almost as much to ship it as you got for the wood.
Yeah, I think it. I think it. Yeah. Well, I remember the mill price, so that sticks in my mind, because the prices varied, you know what I mean, to get the same mill price. In other words, the price in Winnipeg would be higher than the price in Calgary, and actually, because the freight was higher, it would be you'd get back to about the same mill price, which seemed reasonable and logical.
When was your heyday? When were things the best?
The best years we ever had, undoubtedly, be in late 40s and early 50s. The late 40s, I would say. Yeah.
Why? What was?
Well, business was good. Prices were after the wartime price and trade board was disbanded. Prices went up, you know, and prices were pretty good. Mind you, costs were going up too at the same time. But no, we had some nice years there in the late 40s. And
so you sold out at a time when the
that's right. We did. Well, undoubtedly we were influenced by the fact we'd been there for 30 years and more than that, and hadn't really made a fortune, and here was a chance to get. It was an appraisal deal. That was the terms. The independent people would appraise it, and that would be the price. So that was.
Were these New York people that you were dealing with?
Oh yeah, Celgar Corporation of America. That's right. They call it Celgar. That's true. Celgar, a Canadian corporation, Celgar Development Corporation, Canadian company, but Celgar Corporation of America was a. And I think they pretty well lost their investment. They turned the plant over to the government, or if they'd look after the bonds. I think they pretty well lost their investment.
Did you give some thought to Did you give some thought to competing with them?
No. I think it was written into the agreement that we couldn't compete. We couldn't compete with them. I think it was written in. I'm not sure now about that, but no, we never gave any thought to it. What the hell? We had some money in our pocket, and.
But did you ever think of not selling to them?
No. I never. Three of us thought, well, what the hell? We get a chance to sell out. We'll sell out. We'll sell.
Did your relations with the Forest Service change over the years?
We had good relations with the Forest Service. I don't think I can say they changed. I don't think we ever had any trouble. I was well pleased with the local Forest Service. Always pleased. I thought they did a job. What I'm trying to say, they tried to accommodate us. They tried to cooperate, I'm sure.
Were most of your timber sales with a diameter limit?
Well, that's entirely different as compared to today. They were specified that you couldn't cut anything under 13-inch diameter breast high. That we didn't want to anyway. That didn't hurt us because that's a relatively small tree. That's the way it was worded, though. That's reserved.
Did you have to take everything bigger than that?
Oh yes, you were supposed to take everything worthwhile. They never checked too tight on us on that, though. Undoubtedly, we find trees that we should have taken all right, but maybe it was crooked or some damn thing that was left. But they weren't too tough.
Did you ever have a clear-cut sale?
You mean a clear cut? No, no. No, not one, not one, not one. Nor did we clear cut. Nor did we clear cut. Mind you, in my days, you know, there was no pulp chip market. It doesn't exist. It didn't exist. This is changing the whole thing. This has changed the whole thing, you know what I mean? That is, clear cut, mills wouldn't be anxious to clear cut. They wouldn't be anxious to cut these 6-inch trees and so on if they couldn't get rid of all those pulp chips. That's where the stuff would go into sawdust and slab.
Did you ever get a timber sale on a piece that had already been logged 50, 60 years before?
Yes. Oh, well, sure we did. Sure we did. Lots of places we cut where they'd cut way back, and old rotten stumps there, 4 feet in diameter, 3 feet in diameter. They were rotten as hell. Sure. Sure.
So you could see that it had been logged?
Oh, yeah, lots of places. And you know, a lot of loggers were interested in that. I think that here we are cutting here, and someone was back here 50 years ago, right in here. They seemed interested in that. That seemed to please them. They were, and lots of old men. I remember an old Indian pole maker. He'd lived up there all his life, I guess. And he said, I was in here 35 years ago. I was in here cutting timber right here 35 years ago. But everything was different, though. There was no clear cut then. And this clear cut was a complicated situation. It's not as simple as these goddamn environmentalists make out either. That don't clear cut. But in lots of cases, if you leave a few spindly trees there, they'll fall down, they'll blow down. Then 12 months, certainly within a few years, they won't be there. They'll blow down. And
did you see that happen on
sure.
some of the places?
Oh, sure. Sure. The trees we left, in lots of cases, blow down and.
So sometimes after you cut a patch with this diameter limit, it would do well and regenerate.
Yes, and you can't lay down any rules. On some places it did. And where you got a mixed age forest, it'll do pretty good. You know what I mean? But you get this old growth, even age, old growth forest, and I say there's nothing you can do but clear cut it. There's nothing, that's in my opinion. Because if you leave a few trees, they're not going to. They can't take it. They've been in that heavy forest for so long, and protection of the bigger trees, and they can't stand it. They'll blow down in a few years, a damn few.
Did Waldie brothers ever take out a timber sale on the same spot twice? Did you ever?
Well, I'm sure not. Maybe not identical area, but it lapped over. In some cases we were logging where we'd logged 25 years earlier. That's right. But not necessarily identical area. Not